Today we celebrate Saint Bernadine of Siena. Most of the saints suffer great personal opposition, even persecution. Bernadine, by contrast, seems more like a human dynamo who simply took on the needs of the world. He was the greatest preacher of his time, journeying across Italy, calming strife-torn cities, attacking the paganism he found rampant, attracting crowds of 30,000 following St. Francis of Assisi's admonition to preach about vice and virtue, punishment and glory. Compared with St. Paul by the Pope, Bernadine had a keen intuition of the needs of the time, along with solid holiness and boundless energy and joy. He accomplished all this despite having a very weak and hoarse voice, miraculously improved later because of his devotion to Mary. When he was 20, the plague was at its height in his hometown of Siena. Sometimes as many as 20 people died in one day at the hospital. Bernadine offered to run the hospital and, with the help of other young men, nursed patients there for 4 months. He escaped the plague, but was so exhausted that a fever confined him for several months. He spent another year caring for a beloved aunt whose parents had died when he was a child, and at her death began to fast and pray to know God's will for him. At 22, he entered the Franciscan order and was ordained 2 years later. For almost a dozen years, he lived in solitude and prayer, but his gifts ultimately caused him to be sent to preach. He always traveled on foot, sometimes speaking for hours in one place, then doing the same in another town. Especially known for his devotion to the holy name of Jesus, Bernadine devised a symbol, IHS, the first 3 letters of the name of Jesus in Greek, in Gothic letters on a blazing sun. This was to displace the superstitious symbols of the day, as well as the insignia of factions, for example, Guelphs and Ghibellines. The devotion spread and the symbol began to appear in churches, homes, and public buildings. Opposition arose from those who thought it a dangerous innovation. 3 attempts were made to have the Pope take action against him, but Bernadine's holiness, orthodoxy, and intelligence were evidence of his faithfulness. General of the Friars of the Strict Observance, a branch of the Franciscan order, Bernadine strongly emphasized scholarship and further study of theology and canon law. When he started, there were 300 friars in the community. When he died, there were 4,000. He returned to preaching the last 2 years of his life, dying while traveling. Another dynamic saint once said, "I will not be a burden, for I want not what is yours, but you. I will most gladly spend and be utterly spent for your sakes." That was St. Paul in his letter to the Corinthians. There is danger that we see only the whirlwind of activity in the Bernadines of faith, taking care of the sick, preaching, studying, administering, always driving, and forget the source of their energy. We should not say that Bernadine could have been a great contemplative if he had had the chance. He had the chance every day, and he took it. Saint Bernadine of Siena, IHS.